Maybe the single most disappointing part about Baldur's Gate 3's initial release, outside of the horrible bugs in Act 3, was the ending. After spending hundreds of hours with these characters and this story, it felt like everything just ended so abruptly, and in such a lazy and boring fashion. It was a sour end to an otherwise fantastic package, and left a lot of people wanting more. But while we did eventually get that more, with hours of extra content added in the epilogue via a patch months later for free, that doesn't mean that some things won't forever be lost to time. And in the case of events towards the end of the game, none have gotten more traction than the cut content in the upper city of Baldur's Gate. As those of you who have played know, in the final hours of the main campaign, we do in fact get to play out some sequences in the upper city. But all of these are very on rails and mission based, simply taking us from one set piece to the next, with little room to truly explore and discover. Whereas the lower city and Rivington feel fleshed out and expansive, full of quests and NPCs to talk to, the upper city by contrast is barren and unexplorable. The thing is though, this may not have always been the case. Many data miners in the community during the initial months after release were able to find tons of files that indicated there was at one point many more plans for the upper city, including multiple buildings and multi-hour quest lines that would have taken us to some of the most prominent locations from the original games, along with potential extra content for companions like Karlach that fans thought was sorely needed. However, Larian has come out and addressed these rumors directly, stating that plans for the upper city were set in stone well before the release of the game, and that they did not intend to include any more content there. Still though, there's a handful of the community that still claim to this day that the upper city and the now hundreds of discovered files of cut content for it would have been something truly special, and that Larian should have committed to doing even more. Personally though, I think Larian made enough already, with one of the largest and most deep games ever made. But it's still exciting to see some modders are making the dreams of the upper city come to life, and maybe one day this forgotten part of the city, which is up in flames by the time we reach it, will finally get to see the light of day again after we first saw it decades ago in Baldur's Gate 1. Nothing drives a man more to the brink of insanity than love. And in the case of giant purple squid tentacle monsters called Mind Flayers from Baldur's Gate 3, this rule most likely carries over as well. Because you see, for as annoying, manipulative, and uncomfortably flirty as the Emperor is in-game, this Illithid may have quite the heart as well, and behind his evil persona could be a tragic tale for a woman he has used, but also lost. For those of you who haven't experienced it yet, later in Act 3, after the Emperor starts to reveal his plans to you and how he is using you, you learn that at one point he was pseudo-controlling the city of Baldur's Gate by mind-controlling a powerful woman named Belynne Stellmain. As one of the previous members of the Council of Four, the governing body of the city appointed for life from around the 14th to 15th century in the game's canon, Stellmain held great power and responsibility over decision-making for the city's future. But sadly, near the end of her life, she began to experience massive strokes that wiped her mind clean and led to her eventual death in the front of the city. It's strongly implied, and all but confirmed as you will see shortly, that these strokes came at the hands of the Emperor and his mind control. But as to why he would do this, players have been wondering since the initial release of the game. And that's because in-game, we can actually find this very peculiar journal passage titled Patient Log, Duke Stellmain in the Emperor's Hideout. Presumably written by a nurse caring for her during the seizures that eventually took her life, part of the passage reads the following. Duke used to receive visitors in private every 10-day, always hooded and cloaked, always shown in and left to attend Duke privately. No luck in finding. Oddly enough, can't recall a visitor's gender or even stature. Could be half-orc or halfling for all I know. Hoping for their return, visits appear to ease the Duke's mind and body greatly. When we combine this with the fact that the Duke was constantly asking to see this strange visitor and the obvious allusions to this hooded figure being the Emperor himself, things start to get really weird. After all, if the Emperor was the one responsible for Stellmain's death, why on earth is he coming to visit her again after, and why is she finding so much solace in him? The whole exchange just doesn't make any sense, but due to a long-form post on Reddit from user Not So Happy Not So Sad, we may just have an answer. You see, while it's widely known that Stelmane was part of the Council of Four, which we already touched on, what a lot of players might not know is that she also is a leading member of the splinter faction group known as the Knights of the Shield. This secret society of information brokers and political manipulators were unbeknownst to the public in service to an archdevil turned deity known as Gargoth, a manifestation of evil incarnate also called the Hidden Lord. In the Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition campaign Descent into Avernus, we learn that the Hidden Lord uses his powers of manipulation by having people speak to him through a divine shield hidden away in the city. And in this campaign, we also learn that at one point, a nameless NPC stole the shield from the Hidden Lord in the Huan Crypt and stashed it somewhere. And what would you know, in Baldur's Gate 3 and the Elfsong Tavern's Knights of the Shield headquarters, where Stelmane and the Emperor had rooms and constantly met, you can find a hidden room with a small knight shield and paraphernalia, and most importantly, Stelmane's journal on a counter. So this all heavily implies that Stelmane was directly involved with the Hidden Lord, likely doing his bidding for some time, and it's for the most part been speculated that this was because the devil was using Stelmane before she met the Emperor, and that when the Emperor comes onto the scene, he takes control away. But what if it were actually the other way around? In the Huni Mausoleum, we can find small diary entries from Stelmane that presumably talk about her first encounters with the Emperor. And as we can see from these, along with random notes found in the guild hall of discussions between patrons in the Elfsong Tavern, Stelmane really liked the Emperor at first, and by this point didn't seem to be fully under the effects of mind control. This idea is further accentuated by the fact that the Emperor talks about her so fondly in his memories he gives to us in-game. But considering he's a master manipulator, we can't take these at face value. What does provide a lot more evidence, though, is that if we secretly break into the Emperor's room, on his desk is a picture of Stelmane, proving beyond a shadow of a doubt she must mean something to him. But once again, if this is the case, why did the Emperor kill Stelmane? From all the evidence we're looking at thus far, it seems as if the Emperor has the biggest case of multiple personality disorder of all time, constantly oscillating between loving and caring for Stelmane and casting her aside for his own gain like cattle. Well, could it be that the key thing we are missing is how the Hidden Lord is involved? Rather than being an entity that Stelmane met before the Emperor, what if they met after? I mean, think about it. How did Stelmane even get into the position on the council and in the knightly order in the first place? Sure, she could have worked her way up the ranks, but to be such a crucial member in both organizations with no compelling lore on her abilities beforehand in childhood seems pretty far-fetched. What makes this entire series of events not far-fetched, though, is if you have an ultra-intelligent and manipulative mind flayer hidden in the shadows helping you along the way. So could it be that the Emperor and Stelmane actually met when she was nothing but a young, attractive woman? A woman that the Emperor sought not only to use as a tool, but also a woman that he fell in love with. They could have continued to help one another ascend the ranks of the city of Baldur's Gate, until one day, while they tried to uncover the secrets of the Knights of the Shield in the secret room we find, Stelmane was contacted by the Hidden Lord, who through his immense power was able to twist the minds of both Stelmane and the Emperor against one another, causing the Emperor to subjugate Stelmane to seizures that took her life. Considering they are both not necessarily good people to begin with, lying and corrupting their way to the top, a devil's influence taking hold would be commonplace. At some point during this portion of history, where the Emperor is slowly killing Stelmane, the event we learn about from Descent into Avernus happens, where the shield is stolen from the Hidden Lord and he loses power. This could have caused the spell over the Emperor to lose effect, after which he would have felt intense grief for what he has done, constantly visiting Stelmane on her deathbed and consoling her, which perfectly explains the passages we referred to earlier. So as far as I'm concerned, this is the story of Stelmane and the Emperor. And while it doesn't make either of them a hero by any means, it adds some much needed humanity to especially the Emperor, who was once before a human, Balduran, the man who literally founded Baldur's Gate. It means he likely fell in love with this woman chasing his own dreams, and then one day found himself awakening from a nightmare, only to see his own lover dying in his hands. No wonder he's such a dick in-game. Few companions in Baldur's Gate 3 command the same level of fandom as Asterion. And for our next section, we need to talk about a scene with him that everyone missed. This high elf vampire spawn rogue with the charlatan background is found originally to the west of the crashed Nautiloid ship in Act 1. And from the moment you find him, Asterion proves to be quite the handful. He's witty, mischievous, and daring, but most of all is characterized by a horrific past, where he lived under the sadistic rule of a vampire lord named Cazador Zar, and was forced to engage in sexual acts with thousands of people in the city of Baldur's Gate, all to lure them to his master's lair and create more vampire spawn. For years and years, Asterion was tortured, abused, and neglected in the dungeons under the city, and as such now wants to kill the man who ruined his life. There's a whole questline here even involving the opportunity to allow Asterion to ascend and become an evil vampiric lord himself, with tons of different cutscenes that can play out or options to choose from. But much earlier in Act 3, there is actually one event that can happen that leads to an entire cutscene and moment that most people don't even know about. While resting in the city, you will be awakened in the dead of night by a band of vampire spawn that are looking to take Asterion back into captivity. The fight itself is hilariously easy, as the three spawn have almost no health, no attack damage, and are literally some of the weakest enemies you can fight in the entire game, Act 1 included. So for that reason, pretty much no one actually lets Asterion get caught here. It's basically impossible without intentionally letting it happen. But if you do, you get some really deep insight into Asterion's past. After he gets captured, your player character will remark that it's pointless hunting vampires at night and that your team will head out to find him tomorrow, after which you go to bed. And during this sleep, you get a cutscene with Asterion now deep underground in an unknown dungeon, being awoken by an evil skeleton named Godi, who is a servant of Master Cazador. Godi laughs about how Asterion has finally come back to him, and that he would be torturing him endlessly for his transgressions, but Cazador needs his blood, and thus he must behave. You can briefly talk and taunt Godi, but no matter what, after a short while, you have to make a saving throw to protect yourself from Godi keeping you captive. No matter what you roll here though, Asterion's tadpole will come in to save him, and you will break free from Godi's grasp into an immediate fight, after which you will need to sneak your way out or have the team come and save you. It's a really interesting scene that gives more flavor to the backstory of Asterion, and it's even more crazy to think that almost no players will ever actually see this, considering it's basically impossible to land yourself here without being asleep at the wheel for the fight before, or if you intentionally hate Asterion and want to get rid of him. But if that was the case, you probably already handed him over to the vampire hunter in Act 1 or disposed of him in any other manner of ways long before Act 3. So for that reason, it's one of the most well-hidden cutscenes in the entire game that actually has a lot going on that it teaches us about Asterion. And it makes you wonder, what else might there be in Baldur's Gate 3 that no one else has stumbled upon? Entire cutscenes and fights that happen under the weirdest of circumstances. Maybe one of the single most interesting spells in Baldur's Gate 3, a game full of so many, is Speak with the Dead. It allows any user to pull the life force from a nearby corpse, forcing it to answer 5 of your questions that you get to choose from freely. Throughout the game, this results in many moments where you can solve quests or learn backstory and lore by simply talking to any dead body you can learn more from. And on top of this, depending on the character, the corpse might refuse to speak to you as well. For example, some recently slain adversaries will refuse to converse with their killer, forcing you to don a disguise in order to get what you want out of them. So this means all over the game are lesser known encounters that involve using this spell, but maybe the single most insane out of all of them comes from Urgir. This Orthon, also known as a Rage Devil, is a demon hunter that has found themselves in a contract with Raphael, and as such, they are both looking to kill one another. Raphael tasks you with hunting this elusive beast in its own lair deep inside the Gauntlet of Shar, where you can find the Night Song in Act 2. And if you go to the very eastern side of this gargantuan underground temple, you can eventually find him. And when you do, either choose to side with him, fight him outright, or if you're a bard, talk him into taking out his allies, followed by himself. It's a really cool encounter that has a lot of ways to tackle it, but it's what happens after that really makes you shudder. Because nearby his base of operations, you can find none other than Urgir's bed, a hulking fortress of meat and decay, full of the rotting bodies of Shar worshippers who have been slain, stitched together into a mound of flesh. It's a horrifying scene at first for sure, but this only gets more so when you realize that you can use Speak with the Dead on the bed. And when you do, the agonizing moans of these people can be heard as they explain to you what happened and what their lives were like, as you look into the faces and eyes of the bodies still intact enough to make out pure pain in their expression. And really, it's just one of those insane encounters that you wouldn't expect to be in the game at all, but somehow is. It's personally something I never knew about until doing research for this video, and it shows just how morbid the world of Baldur's Gate 3 can really get, and how it does things that literally no other game in history has even attempted to. In terms of places in Baldur's Gate 3 with lots of mysteries and secrets, maybe none are better than Sorcerer Sundries from Act 3. This large, colorful, and circular building located in the southeast of the lower city of Baldur's Gate serves as the breeding ground of magic, where denizens looking to buy infused weapons, armor, wands, potions, or spell scrolls can come and spend to their heart's desire. It's a magical place, no pun intended, and as you would expect from any arcane buildings like this, there are lots of hidden things to find. Above, you can make your way to Ramesses Tower, where you can find Lorkhan and multiple portals to faraway places. But there actually is something the exact opposite way that might be even more interesting. Because hidden below Sorcerer Sundries is a large string of vaults, which contain and protect some of the most powerful artifacts, books, and spells in the entire game. To even get down here in the first place, you will need to solve a puzzle in the main building, involving turning invisible or sneaking around and pulling on books that are actually levers, or unleashing hidden portals, lockpicking, and walking through fake walls. On top of this, once you actually find your way inside the vaults, you will be met with a labyrinthian room of pure confusion, where you will simply open one door after another, endlessly walking into oblivion and heinous traps. However, there is one door, the Elminster door, which if you can get through, leads to a secret most players have never seen. To get to this door in the first place, you will need to go through the Silverhand, Evocation, and Wish doors in that order, while surviving multiple traps or illusions your party will need to avoid. After getting through the Elminster door, you are then greeted with multiple pieces of loot, including the Tharchiot Codex and another copy of the Necromancy of Thay, which you can find in Act 1. But there actually is even more hidden reward here as well. Behind the vault's main portal, past a hidden path beyond the stone walls that can be opened by pressing a small button hidden to the right, you can find another hidden room and hallway. And while most players will continue down this to find more treasure, if you yet again find another hidden wall before the main room, you will be taken to another secret spot, this time much older than all the others. In this room is nothing but a peculiar altar sporting an unassuming lamp that can be found. And without even going further, most players will probably start to be on edge and worried at this point, because pretty obviously something is going on here. If you do interact with the lamp though against your intuitions, suddenly a genie will appear before you and teleport you inside the lamp. The area is exuberant and covered in silk tapestries, bedding, and pillows, along with striking colors of purple and gold. And on top of this, there are tons of rare weapons and scrolls or potions to find here, hidden away behind bookshelves or silk linings. But the true horror reveals itself quickly, as the genie informs you that only one soul may be inside this lamp at once, and that he has been sitting alone here in this hell for years. As quickly as you met him, the genie leaves you, now alone and stuck forever inside this tomb, endlessly wasting away your days in fine Italian-like furnishings. It's a horrifying revelation for sure, and if you don't know what you're doing, it can spell huge trouble. Because just as the genie told you, only one soul is allowed in this lamp at a time, and that soul may never escape. For many players, this results in searching around the zone frantically for a way out. And if you didn't teleport into the lamp already with ample spell scrolls or slots, you might be in big trouble. Luckily though, for players that didn't come prepared, hidden away in one of the corners of the main room, you can find a scroll of Summon Quasit, which allows you to summon this poor demon to forever be trapped alone and afraid in the lamp, thus taking your place and letting you escape. It's a sad or happy ending depending on how bad you need your main character or companion back with all the loot they found. And it once again goes to show just how deep this game really is. Almost no players will actually find this lamp, hidden behind a handful of invisible walls, trapdoors, guards, or puzzles to solve. But yet if you do, you are met with one of the coolest and most unique interactions in the entire game. So much effort into something that practically no one will ever find. And really, that's what makes Baldur's Gate 3 so special. The lamp is just one of these that I never personally found on my playthroughs and wanted to show you guys, but there's so many just like this that really make every single playthrough such a cool experience.